Thank you guys so much for joining us. b0gie, are you also going to be speaking with us?
Yeah, I'll be here. Like talking about Neos and yeah, being in VR.
All right, awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sweet.
b0gie is one of the main creators of 3D content. He made a lot of the videos and promos that you've seen this time, as well as last time. So he's a huge creator in the 3D space and runs Blender workshops for people in metagames. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for all your work too,
no
both
worries,
in
man.
this stream and everything else.
No
So thanks a
problem,
lot,
man.
guys. So I think one of the things that we were talking about before we cut over the stream that I'd like to talk about down the road is AI and like engagement and interaction in the metaverse. But I think right now I want to kick us off with just what our experience is in building the worlds that we're a part of and what we see is going to be happening this year in those worlds. So I'm gonna ask Rev to start us off. How you doing, Rev?
Doing great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Um, in terms of Atlantis, the envision, and in terms of everything that's kind of going on in this, metaverse space, more and more people start to get accustomed to that and spend more time in Web3 native metaverses, not just metaverses, right? And all of the exciting integrations with, DeFi, DAOs, NFTs, variables that are happening, and shout out to everyone here that's contributing to that, leads to more and more engagement, and as well as what we're also focusing a lot these days are like social events, like Web3 native social events that showcase this metaverses in a way that's meaningful and also engaging, is driving a lot of adoption for both newcomers and those folks in the space that are kind of looking forward and looking for new ways to interact and perhaps showcase their holdings, be it NFTs, be it DAO badges, POAPs, etc. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. What about you, Jen? Can you talk a little bit about your experience building a metaverse and some of the powers that and problems that you faced along the way too?
Yeah. Usually I like to start out with the assets and try and get them into as many different places as possible. So like this world behind me, it has stuff from all sorts of different platforms. Like I got like this building from Crypto Voxels, and then this thing I think was built in like Tilt Brush, and this home space I got from. Well, I bring it everywhere because it's a shipping container, so it's meant to be very portable. Quest home space ripped out skip that. That's an on cyber space pod. And just like how do we make stuff that is reusable, recyclable, and to unlock the kind of strengths of each platform, because each one offers something they're really good at. And instead of like trying to create one master app, like maybe we just lean into a federated kind of model where just lean to the strengths of each one. So that's what I'm trying to create more content and examples of.
Yeah, awesome. It's definitely hard to make any kind of uh, solid decision when there's a whole bunch of different projects all kind of doing different things. So I definitely agree with getting the assets in place first, and the main thing is adoption, and more people talking about things and understanding things will mean more things are being created. Musashi, do you want to talk a little bit about what's happening with Neos VR and some of the creation that's happening there and how that works?
Sure. Yeah, we're working on a lot of stuff in Neos, and now kind of doing a little bit of some of the same aspects as making things multi-chain, multiverse. So we're now looking at making all our assets able to be transferred world to world, kind of like the stacks and the portable system Jin had there, and also creating spaces that are also the same, where you're walking in through one door and ending up in one metaverse, walk through another door and end up in another metaverse, and really trying to drop a lot of those barriers between not just the metaverses, but these social platforms we use that are you know kind of already a part of the metaverse, and we're kind of integrating some of those things into it, and then replacing other things. We're kind of in a cool, weird transitionary period right now where, you know, the Web 2 platforms are kind of moving to Web 3 platforms, and Web 3 platforms are kind of moving into more of a 3D metaverse environment. And a lot of that has started with gaming and fun stuff, but really it's moving into, you know, Web 2, you know, moved into Web 3 type websites. And now they're realizing, oh, yeah, we can work within these metaverses and actually, you know, not, maybe, you know, not just fill a gap that may have been created through something like COVID or some sort of odd, you know, life event that happened where you're stuck at home for some reason or another. But instead, now it's like, wow, you know, what my normal work environment looked like before, what I was able to do before, within this metaverse, I'm able to do things that makes my work a lot more productive. I'm able to automate a lot of things, and really keep myself focused on my tasks, because I can, through that automation, I can kind of stop jumping from platform to platform, protocol to protocol, metaverse to metaverse. You know, there's a lot less switching and taking my focus away. You know, breaking my focus. I can really stay more in a zone, and so we're really starting to see a lot of those abilities to make our workflows and our collaboration with each other in real time more productive. And it's really exciting. Some of these metaverses like Neos, and some of the metaverses we're each actually creating ourselves too, are so open and free that if you can dream it up, you can pretty much do it. So it's very exciting to be building right now and breaking stuff.
I think one of the coolest parts about Atlantis World is like the interoperability between different dApps, and especially like right now where there are clone websites or clone NFTs, and there's so many different scams. Having like a headquarters that is semi-official but doesn't require focus shift. You can literally like walk into the building and, you know, I'm at Grey Guild headquarters, or I'm at Urine Profile. You know, the physicality in the digital world changes your understanding and your trust of the space, even though it's still a trustless environment. We are kind of building the network that shows where things work together. And you know, when Jin was demonstrating the different NFTs that are here, we had an on-cyber gallery, we had crypto voxels, we have a shipping container, and it really shows like the power of each one of these platforms is multiplied when you combine them and you go between them. And that's really what, when we talk about a metaverse, it means is that you're going between different experiences. It's not a centralized ownership of that world. Let's spend a little moment about talking about ownership in this space of like the assets. So right, we all make assets, but then the consumer of those might not necessarily be in the world that we created them for, or they might be used by the owner in different ways. Can we talk about what the metaverse means towards ownership and sharing these worlds?
Something that comes in mind is like if the asset only works in one platform, then who's really in control? You know, so being built on interoperable standards, I think, is really important, so that you have the right of exit and that, you know, you are in control of that medium. It's not like you know, proprietary like file that only works with one program. Can you imagine that in like a physical analog version of such? You know, people wouldn't think of that as ownership at all. It's like the brand or manufacturer owns you.
Yeah, how many different cables do I have to plug in a phone?
Right, yeah. If only we adopted USB-C universally.
How about you, Rev? How do you feel about kind of this shared ownership model as we move into like this open web?
Yeah, I feel like in Web3 it should be kind of inevitable in a way that we all should push for that, because if we all build within a mindset of, the winner takes all, we're kind of building with the same principles that Web2 has been built. And that's not, hopefully we want to see in the future. Speaking of Atlantis World, we've been in touch with some of even 3D and 2D pixel metaverses, exploring building clubhouses for them, portals as, for example, Musashi was mentioned, and that's exactly the same values that we have. The analogy I'm always having in mind for that is like, there's dozens of restaurants in your city, and you don't just always go to one of them. I mean, and they have different kitchens and all that, so it's fine. We can all co-create and coexist and actually support public good aspect of Web3, which is, in my view, it's all about that.
Yeah, so as we talk about things going between, interoperable standards, as Jin mentioned, are critical. What are some of the practices that we can use to be more proactive in supporting multiple formats? Is there a place that we should go to look for standards aside from EIP numbers and things like that? Because I think a lot of that goes over some people's heads, and we throw around a lot of numbers, but if we have standards, there has to be a clean way for people to interpret them and understand and know where to go to learn those standards. Is there a place that's kind of evolving for those standards?
Like a working group, you mean?
Yeah, a working group or a place that anyone that wants to support these can.
I would say OMI group for in terms of like metaverse specific. It's basically they have a calendar of events, and so like Thursdays are for GLTF extensions, and Tuesdays scripting, weekly Wednesdays. So this is good. Just kind of like talk with other people that are building on different platforms. And you need at least like 3 participants in a lab to really kind of develop open standards around. So when looking for like collaborators that are building on, these different engines and platforms, this is a good place to link up and, share notes. And once you have at least 3, then it becomes viable for kind of like building standards around.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really cool group. That was the OMI group.
Yeah, Open Metaverse Interoperability, OMI group, and they have they're doing a good job with community documentation. It's a public working group, and if you check out some of the repos, like GLTF extensions, you just go to discussions, and you can get up to speed with all the meetings that have ever happened. It's all on Discord and GitHub.
And GLTF, for those that don't know, is a 3D file format that is easily web rendered. So they have GLB as well, which is a compressed version of that. But that is one of the easiest and most web-friendly versions of 3D models. And it's definitely a standard that we've leaned into and I've seen used as well. So I definitely recommend it. And if you want to learn more about 3D assets, I believe Blender is really supporting growth in open tooling and metaverse creation as well. Is that right?
Oh, for sure. That's just like a Swiss Army tool for doing all of those kinds of conversions for different compatibility across apps. And, like it's not just 3D. Like for example, in this Webaverse demo that I have, I've got like this avatar, right? That's 3D. But like, let's say I want compatibility with Atlantis World or like these 2D, metaverse platforms. I could automatically convert my 3D model, and this can be done in Blender as well, all kind of like in a streamlined way of turning it into a sprite sheet. And then that also means like anything in those 2D platforms also is compatible like in this 3D platform. So right then and there, just turn my avatar 2D. So it's a sprite, and I just went from like 13 megabytes of a file, 15,000 triangles to 100 kilobytes, maybe, if that, and like 2 triangles, and this is what you need to kind of like scale the metaverse. And I'll just kind of show an illustration here. Just like how much you can save. That way you can have hundreds or even thousands of avatars in a world.
Yeah, because as we know, first world countries might be able to do something like 40 megabytes, but on a cellular connection or mobile device or with
Or
a
if you're in Australia, I hear it's
yeah,
bad there.
yeah, something like 1,000 avatars at 40 megabytes becomes unreasonable.
Yep.
So it's
And
definitely
it looks
important.
cool.
It reminds me of Paper Mario. Did you ever play Paper Mario?
Oh yeah, I love that game.
Is super cool because you run around in the 3D world and then you learn like, oh, I can just turn sideways, and you're like 2D. And
Yeah.
I think I saw one of the models when we were walking around that was 2D as well.
Yeah, it just kind of leaves an artifact. I don't know if it's a bug, but it looks cool.
It reminds me of like those paper cutouts of
Yeah,
people.
well, this is a good visualization of how it works. It always points to the camera, so it's like Doom. They call them Doom sprites. But really, I'm just a flat image, like this thing.
That's super cool. And how do you deal with images and sprites? Rev, is it something that people can create their own sprites for easily? Or are there tools that will have to import different?
It's not easy enough. That's why this automated method is great. But like, yeah, it would be great if it was just like upload and bam, it generates for you. Like every 3D object needs different representations. Like think about it in terms of your inventory. You need like a thumbnail for your asset library. So like interoperability is like kind of creating all these different representations of the same file. And this is just, it's called in game dev level of detail. So like the farther away you are from the camera, the less you need. In open world games, that mountain over yonder where you can climb is an image until you get close to it. Then it's 3D.
It's amazing the response time with this, even though they're 3D and large amount of assets on screen. There's no real visible lag as you move around.
Yeah, a lot of this is WebAssembly.
How much of Atlantis World is on chain for the game experience?
Sure. We have some, game assets in terms of, some of the land hosted on IPFS and loaded from there. But I wouldn't say we're fully on chain, and we are not aiming to be there yet. We decided to take more so progressive decentralization approach. And I actually do agree with the point that Jin mentioned. We had actually some of discussions before in the past with Jin, and I feel like it pays off, to be in touch with other game developers and metaverse developers, not to reinvent the wheel, especially when it comes to characters. For example, it's on our roadmap. We haven't built a system for that yet, just because we've been fully focused on actually building the cities, the DeFi cities, DAO city, NFT, and creating interoperability with them, within them. And right now that's something that we're starting to, build.
Very cool. And yeah, I definitely agree that the world doesn't need to be all on chain. I think having the Web 2 tools to support the worlds and move us between things and make sure that people have a good user experience is kind of critical. And then we use the on-chain utility for what it's good for, rather than trying to force everything on chain. I think that's the only way that we can make positive user experiences with the current transaction limits on Ethereum.
Oh yeah, I see the Atlantis background on Jin's side. So yeah, this is part of our actually DeFi city. You can see your own finance bank building there. I mean, decentralized bank. And if you go inside, which you can probably, it's a screenshot, you'll be able to be inside of their building, see the NPC, non-playable character. I mean, hopefully I don't need to explain that to people who watch this, but yeah, that NPC is going to teach you, what's going on. What is the clubhouse, what is actually happening, and then you'll be able to interact with it and actually use. But Andy, if you'd like to share some comments, feel free.
Yeah, sure thing. So this is in our staging deployment, so this isn't on our official alpha currently, but this is kind of one of our test environments, and essentially imagine this as our DeFi town map, where we've curated some trustable projects that we're in support of, and we want to have it as a way where people who aren't familiar with crypto or Web3 to begin with kind of have a safe environment to learn and play around in DeFi without turning into full degens to start out with, and doing that by supporting prominent projects in the space. Like, for example, we've got the 1-inch building here, we've got Pool Together in the center, and we've got Aave. And we've placed these not just based on who the project is, but also how they relate. Like, for example, Pool Together gets their yield from Aave, so it made sense to place them close to each other. In order to deposit into Pool Together, you need to have USDC. So if you don't have USDC, you can simply walk into the 1-inch building. You can interact with the NPC here, open up a swap menu, and from there walk all the way back into the Pool Together building and actually make a deposit into their protocol. And the exciting aspect is that this is me walking around in our staging deployment right now, but in the actual alpha, you'll be able to walk your friend and show them how everything works. And we can have like little integrations based on the community themselves. Pull Together, for example, has a campaign that they run where it's just people trying to guess on random events on chain, and whoever has the longest streak at the end of the round is the winner for that season, and it's just a fun little thing. So there's a lot that we want to build out for those specific communities to make it unique experience and support end users.
That's really cool. I love seeing it and running around. And yeah, I think having the buildings that are close by kind of emphasizes what I was saying before about having the community. I think it's really cool, just like in Pokemon, right? If I wanted to go to the bank, I need some money. So this is something that people can understand easily and conceptualize things like staking, where it might sound like magic when we talk about DeFi. But if you go in here and you talk to the NPC, he can explain it a lot better than maybe a blog post can, because you get to interact with it. So different people learn things different ways. I like the aspect of potentially gamifying some of this too. Are there plans to add quests and objectives, kind of like rabbit hole, that take people through the different places?
Yeah, and it's all about showing people.
Cool. I think this is probably a pretty good time to talk about the NPC that I was mentioning earlier. So before we got on this, we were talking about AI, talking to AI, and just creating rich experiences within these worlds without needing a person to be there. And I think that's also one of the key parts for onboarding people into the metaverse, is that they have an experience that's pleasant, that helps them understand things, but also isn't super labor intensive for a person. It's really hard for a person to onboard everyone and give them a consistent experience that explains everything that they need to know. So I think having AI and NPCs do a lot of this work will help people experience it rather than just listen to information. Have you guys seen what's the movie called? A Free Guy? With
Yeah,
Ryan
that's a good movie.
NPC.
Love that movie.
Have you had a chance to see it, Rev?
Not yet. I should. If there's
So-
3 hours free, I'll watch it today.
It's about an NPC in a video game, very similar to Grand Theft Auto, where the city's crazy and people are encouraged to shoot people and commit crimes to make money, and it's an MMO dedicated to that. But they built the video game on a framework where the NPCs had AI, and so it's following one of the bankers in the game, and a non-playable character that works at the bank that suddenly realizes, oh, I can play this game. And so it's an amazing movie. I definitely recommend it. I watched it coming back from Dev Connect in Amsterdam, and I haven't laughed at a movie so hard in a long time. So it deals a lot with NPC interaction. And do you think let's talk a little bit about the NPC interaction and integrating potentially AI into some of the user experiences? Jen, do you want to continue a little bit with the AI talk?
Yeah. So any like metaverse play at this decade eventually is going to converge with AI. It's in all the headsets, and you see a lot of big metaverse experimenting with it, like for aiding content creation or translation, all sorts of things. It's hot sauce. It's being applied everywhere. And one of the things that I'm kind of like worried about is a lot of it is in a black box. And one of the things that Webverse is building is you have the option to change your AI provider. So you can integrate AI into the world, and you can do it on Goose AI, which is GPT-J, GPT-Neo. You can do, if you have an OpenAI key, you can power it by OpenAI. And NPCs are, you can talk to them. And if I open up my console while I do such, you can kind of see what's going on. I give them so this whole world, it's made out of JSONs, interactive JSONs and whatnot, but the AI knows all the names for all the objects in the world already. Anything I spawn in the world, I'll just say, hi, Jen, and see if it responds to me. Let's see, going. So it's not really making sense to me, but that's GPT-J. Sometimes it does surprise you with some moments of intelligence, but you know what? I like it derpy. I feel like it's a friendlier way of doing AI. That's why pets are a good vessel, I think, for AI, because there's a lot of analogies to ownership with pets. Like blockchain, a pet, a leash. Like you own a thing. You can
Tamagotchi.
apply to it. Yeah, Tamagotchi, Pokemon. You know what I mean? So, got like some Tubby Cats here, which is completely CC0 project, and which means people can remix these things however they want. So I'll be like, yo, Tubby Cat. And it's all doing speech text to speech. So I could just literally talk to it. All right. Jin responded, not me, but yeah, sometimes they do like surprise you. I'll be like, yo, Jin, follow me. And in the prompts, you see over here, it's crazy because it's like you're training like markdown documents in a way. It's like all based on markdown for the prompts. Here we go. So here's kind of what's going on underneath the hood. You can see like it detects characters, and it has script examples, and in the script examples you also see like actions as part of it. And whenever you like mess around with GPT or like these AI playgrounds, you'll familiarize with the idea of prompts, and then just kind of like leaving it open for responses. And the responses can include actions and all sorts of stuff, and having a memory too. So you train it the more you interact with it as well. So
I think one of the key differences between previous behavior for NPCs and AI that's relevant to people is before we had to do a whole bunch of if checks and check the state of something and kind of plan out, if this does this, then this will happen. But with AI, it's a lot more training, as you say. You tell the model, if you do this, this is the score that you get, and it kind of learns. And so, just like a person, it will make some mistakes and it will get negative points, and then it'll be okay. Well, I can do it better this way. And so, oh yep, Jin just decided to follow you.
yeah, and
So,
it said LOL. Some of them have personalities too. Like they seeded some of the main Webverse is building a first party game as well. So it's not just like full UGC sandbox. And the characters that they have for their game coming up called Upstreet have like their own kind of personalities. And Drake, he likes to talk smack a lot of times. So like if you ever base one of your own characters after Drake, just imagine like a Call of Duty player in a way. he'll or Gary Oak. He's like Gary Oak basically.
What about NPC interaction and some of the other worlds? Cryptocurrency. You want to talk a little bit about NPCs for Neos?
Yeah, I've actually got one pulled up on screen right now. So this is an NPC that basically, this was an avatar that I was in. I was controlling at the moment, and we have an avatar recorder here. So we can record what we're doing, do any kind of greeting or explanation, actually show someone how to do something in the world, or even pass on this type of avatar recording in a message to someone, and they could spawn it in the world and see me do or explain whatever. So this was the first test. Just we push a button to start it, and then our NPC goes to work.
That's cool. What about learning? Can you teach your NPC to talk to people? Is that possible?
Oh, that's the MetaGen.
So yeah, that's MetaGen bot. And this one is basically just for recording and doesn't have any AI features hooked up to it. But we have been playing with some AI NPCs as well. So that'll be something that will be a lot of fun as well. One of the ideas for Moloch Cloud Ship is to have these apparitions or demons running around the ship that have metadata stored in it. That's basically a problem that one or many of our DAOs are having with a bounty attached. And if you interact with that NPC, it'll kind of take you along a quest to maybe walk you through some of the ideas that the DAOs have already come up with, possible solutions, or if there are none, just walk you through a pretty open quest to allow you to come to your own solutions.
Very cool.
And slay Moloch.
How about Atlantis? How does Atlantis world deal with NPC conversations and incorporating conversations from complex things like DeFi and bring them into a world to help people understand?
Yeah, so as of today, we're mostly doing that manually, I would say, because it actually takes a lot of efforts of coming up with this guiding, step-by-step processes that will also lead and interconnect with quest system that we're, implementing, because we don't want just users to talk to NPC, but we want that to be ideally part of the quest system, that they're learning not just, let's say about Yearn Finance or 1H, but actually about all of these different protocols, and that all united into one flow. And then the cool thing is balancing that with kind of quest system on one side and incentives on another side, and not necessarily just badges or in-game power-ups, but it could be also with tokens and sort of learn to earn quest system.
Yeah, and part of that with the individual DAOs that we work with is also making a unique experience for their potential users and also people who are just exploring their protocol. So, the NPC experience and quests might be very different between Yearn Finance, Aave, Pull Together, or whatever other projects there might be, to make it unique for them and their users.
Awesome. One of the crazy things about our space is how fast things change. How hard would it be to change quest lines or stories if one of the protocols was not available in 6 months or something like that? Is the world flexible enough to allow kind of dynamic change for protocols or new people that come in?
Yeah, if you mean in terms of Atlantis world, right now we're in such a stage where we spending a lot of time and efforts on actually creation, because we believe it's critical. Like, for example, we even turned down a lot of deals, including like big grants from, which is funny, VCs that were pitching us to build the cities or buildings for them. We said sorry, no, because that's not aligned at this stage with the kind of spaces that we're building. And then in the future, we'd love to obviously make that more like community driven and in a way permissionless, that not just depends on our decision making. Yeah.
Awesome. I definitely think that that's a very powerful statement, and it's something that I know I feel in my heart, and I've felt from a lot of other people too, is that this is not a cash grab. We're here to make stuff, and if people throw money at us, they're probably not the people that we want to work with, because they're not going to use these interoperable standards.
Also, Penguin, it's actually funny. I remember a year ago, I messaged you with the idea of Atlantis, and I was messaging to some random people, just getting their feedback. Hey, would you actually use that? Imagine like throwing Web3 into like 2D pixel environment and then having a DVD chat. And that's how we met actually. And it's crazy. And I think that's something that I really appreciate in our space. And especially when you're on the building side, right? That's something which is unusual to you, because in Web2 side, there is always this, constant competition, competing with each other, trying, to tear others down by whatever. And here we're in a space where we're actually helping each other and trying to think about standards to make our, games and metaverses interoperable. And I love it.
Yeah, I think one of the best metaphors that I have for Web3 that I've heard is the garden metaphor. If we build walled gardens, we don't let anyone in, then what's the point of the flowers? And everyone's like, no one gets to see them. You're growing one type, you have to do all the work. If we have these open gardens, people are free to come in. They're able to build and create what they want, essentially planting their own trees or fruit. And then, at harvest time, everything is kind of blossoming, right? All the work that you put into it is now kind of growing at different rates in the garden. Some people might have roses which bloom and they're very pretty, and some people might have like the moon star iris, right, which only blossoms once in 27 years, from like Dennis the Menace. So everyone's kind of fruits and efforts have their own place in the garden, and by putting it next to each other, we share, we learn, oh, this is how someone else was able to do their project. And I think having that space that we intentionally share together makes it so that we're all building together. That's one of the key concepts of Web3, is that we're not walling things off and hiding it behind gates that make sure no one can follow us. And that's why it's critical to have the the tenacity and the strength to turn down some money for what's right and make sure that we're building things for each other. So huge support for everything you're doing there. And I love what all of us are doing. The cloud ship is so cool. It feels like Quake. I love the Pokemon aspect of Atlantis World. I was one of the first people. I was there as soon as the clock ticked down, and I got my Atlantis scroll. So I'm really excited with everything you guys are doing, and obviously the combining everything with the XR toolkits and what Webverse is doing is mind blowing. I think it's still going to take people a year to catch up with everything that you've been doing, Jin, just in terms of understanding it, because it's so hard to be early and explain it to people and have them understand. I think it's easier for us to talk to each other sometimes than it is to talk to the public and for the people that actually need to come in and understand these things. So I think that NPC stuff is critical.
I'm trying to create more, I guess, tooling bridges to bring content from, like, say, VR chat into the web and explain like how the web, as well as Neos, because you actually have a way to export stuff out of Neos, and just kind of showcase utilities, thinking more like a director now and creating video to compress ideas. And also using NFT avatars has really helped in terms of being a bridge, because people really tune in closer when they see characters that they have a connection to on the screen.
Yeah, I think that's one of the experiences I'd like us to kind of talk about before we head out or close. our thoughts would be kind of wearables and what that means in the world for people to have some self-expression and personal connection with their avatars. Can we talk a little bit about customizing avatars and wearables and what that means in the metaverse experience?
I'll just say Neos has probably one of the easiest ways. Like, if you want to see the current state of wearables at the moment, try adding a hat to your custom avatar. It sends you down a rabbit hole where it's like, oh, I got to learn like Blender and Unity and all this other stuff. Like, there's no like easy way to do that. And Neos, it's pretty all right. Well, first you got to like get into Neos and learn that. But I just like how you can whip something out of your inventory and then put it on your head naturally, and it can stay on. Now, if only there was a way to export that out for usability in other places, that'd be really nice. And also, it's really cool how you can get real-time help from people. Like, they see your menus as you're navigating them. So every time I'm in there, I have a public world open, so people can just world snipe me, join in, and then, you know, whenever I have a question, I just talk out loud, and people like fly over and help. So that's really cool. But yeah, it's pretty messy, Wild West in terms of, you know, like needing to know certain tools. I feel like the in between right now is avatar tailors and porters. We're not going to have like a AI streamlined software solution 100% automated anytime soon, nor I don't think that should be the goal. I think there should be something where it's like we can kind of give the virtual economy a boost by connecting people who want to bring their avatar to different places or wearables to be compatible with different collections, to be interoperable. And that's kind of been the story with Virtual Market. It's this giant expo that happens in VRChat every 3 months or so, thousands of booths and whatnot. I got some of the sample booths in this world. But, you know, they started out in VRChat, but the stuff that they sold, it was a lot more people demanded like compatibility with other platforms. And so buyers and sellers, the event became cross-platform. So they had a web version of it, and it appeared in Neos called Neos Festa. And now they're building their own web clients as well. But people then also started shipping avatars with like low poly versions of the same avatar and VRM versions of the avatar. So it kind of did shape the market as well to be something to work across all the different platforms and create a culture around being cross-platform.
Okay, cool. Does anyone else have an opinion about wearables and dressing ourselves in this metaverse space?
Yeah, I would just say that we are. Well, there's some background noise.
Yeah, I think you're good. I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I would just mention that we are still in the process of exploring that. And one thing that I'm really excited is, collaborating with folks like Metafactory, which Finn is also part of, to actually explore not just creating variables, but when we do that, creating in a way that also native to this interoperability standards. So folks are also purchasing them, right? Thinking about the end users can use them right away inside of 2D, 3D, VR metaverses. And that's something I would say it's really the key for all of us. Like, then we actually add even more value to our users, and thus attracting more users for this like interoperable, driven approach.
What about wearables? Do you have any wearables right now, Rev, for crypto voxels or any other platforms?
A good friend of mine, we do have like I wouldn't say I own that as much as him, but yeah, we have some shared stuff. But I wouldn't say like so far, I'm not spending as much time in other metaverses as I used to because, building advanced world takes a lot of time. So, but yeah.
Yeah, building is definitely hugely time consuming. I definitely recommend you to pick up some wearables, get your style on. When you walk around in these worlds, like, oh man, look at Rev, look at his cool pet following him, or whatever it is that you want to do. I've got a penguin suit that I built for CryptoVoxels. So if you see me walking around, I'm a giant penguin in the
Oh, check
game.
this out. I got my CryptoVoxels. I mean, CryptoVoxels wearables look good on other avatars too. So I brought that and put it onto my b0gie character.
Oh yeah, those are sick. Yeah, so I think, having these tools is going to be a part of our self-expression. And like one of the big things between my daughter and the next generation is they're used to spending money on Roblox for avatars and having wearables at that level. And I think that'll be one of the big jumps that we have in Web3. Because even in VR culture, there's a huge culture set up around what you look like. The virtual fair that Jin mentioned is, I don't know how many booths there are. How many booths are there, Jin? Usually?
Per festival, thousands, like 1,400 or so was the last I counted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no teardown involved with Virtual Expo, so you can always go back and see time capsules of them.
Yeah, so those are all people that are dedicated to the creation of virtual assets. And as we expand our libraries and we're talking about assets that we're building, I think a lot of the existing culture around 3D is going to have another spark. Just like we had the art NFTs, I think this year is really going to kick off wearables as we jump into these new experiences to build. When can we expect the Atlantis World playable alpha? Is that coming soon?
Oh yeah, I'm excited to tell yes. We internally are planning to ship it within less than 2 months. And hopefully we'll stick to that. It's like we haven't committed to the public yet, by any chance. But internally, it's like looks like 4 to 6 weeks from now.
Yeah, it's always difficult to get the launch days ironed out, but we're definitely excited for it and we're willing to wait for it. It's better to have it uh, everything cinched up and correct than it is to release things a little bit early. So yeah, we'll definitely check back in when we can hop in, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks
Thank you.
everyone for joining today and for helping out with the panel, explaining the metaverse to people. Does anyone else want to have any closing thoughts? We've got about 5 more minutes before we turn it over to the Neos team.
I
b0gie?
guess b0gie.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Um, I'm just really excited. That's like, I mean, these days it's like every day you just discover something new, right? And yeah, I'm just excited in general these days. That's my opinion, man. But
Awesome.
yeah.
Sorry,
I think
Jane.
Yeah, I got a
Rick?
little something. I think things like like platforms like Atlantis World, the thing I showed you with the Avatar LOD being a sprite, like you can imagine that with Overworlds too. So imagine like rendering a top down of, let's say, CryptoVoxels, okay? Boom, you got a map, add some interactivity into there, multiplayer sprite avatars, and then you've got composability, interoperability. You really kind of like have a super ultra light client that can bring more people and also like kind of be a good example of the interop stuff that NFTs love to like talk about and try and live up to. It brings these communities closer together. Then you can walk from like say Atlantis into CV that way. It could all be hyperlinked together.
Super cool. Rev?
yeah, good. Thank you, Jim. I feel like someone 5, 7, 10 years from now will look at that kind of panel and think, "Oh my God, how that everything was starting." It's truly a blessing and humbling experience to be on this panel today and just have a possibility to be surrounded by people like yourself, like everyone here. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, everyone in the metaverse as well. Thank you to all of my guests, both here on this panel and MetaFest as a whole. I love you all very, very much. Thank you so much for your time and helping push this space forward. This is all because of us and the makers. So that's why I can't stop. I mentioned before, I don't really even get to sleep anymore because I'm so excited too about what we're doing. So thank you all for helping us get there.
Thank you. Much
Cheers.
love.
Thank you,
Oh,
Ron.
love, man. I love it, bro. It's good vibes.
Bye bye. Yeah, I'm not sure
Super.
if anyone knows, but my shirt is actually from an NFT as well. So we
Oh,
talk
wow.
about metaverse fashion and wearables and going into the real world. This shirt is a hash mask. So this is hash mask 7770, and I turned this into a wearable for Metafactory, and we released this last year with Hashanista. So yeah, so and
Is
part
there a
of culture
Kong
is
chip?
like expressing it. There's no Kong chip on this one, but yeah, I'll show you a sneak peek of the next one. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. I'm probably not.
Oh,
Don't get me in
snap.
trouble.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. Okay, so I've got the next hash mask one too. Like this one is, I love this.
Ooh.
Make sure you get this one when it drops. It's got the hash mask eyes on the inside of the hood, the back of the head. And it's a this one's actually from the hash mask community, so check it out. And
Ooh.
that's where a lot of this culture kind of comes into the nexus, right? We start out with a game, we make some clothes from it, make a wearable, and then I'm walking around a festival with it for real. So it's what it's all about. So thanks everyone here.
I love it.
I
Thank
want
you.
to see a lot of avatars wearing all sorts of wearables that kind of are in the spirit of crypto culture and kind of really pushing these values into like virtual world and avatar culture.
Yeah, I'm gonna be wearing probably Metafactory or crazy shirts all week. So I'll try and have the story for them as well. So maybe tomorrow I'll wear my shirt. I got a penguin shirt.
You got
Oh,
a penguin
nice.
hat though?
I don't have a penguin hat.
Not yet.
Ah, not yet.
Not yet. Well, great. Thank you so much, Rev, Andy, and Jen. I'll catch y'all later.
Take it easy, guys.
Later,
Thanks
y'all.
again.
Thank you. Take care.